All right, so moving on to part 7. I know I just did part 6, but that's why I'm not I'm not wearing the same thing from week to week. This is as explained in video 6. I didn't quite get to the video portion until today, and session 7 was today. So I figured I'd do them back to back. So last we left off, the party found themselves in the town of Rotherhith. They dropped off the shipment, and they met the Lord Governor of Rotherhith, named Corp Terra. Had Biggins, or Josh, excuse me, absolutely loved that name, and I'm glad he did, because it took me a while to think about that one. I just had to. Okay, I'll stop. I'll stop with myself. Anyway, so they wake up on the 6th day, which would be D6 star zone, G for generation 634, which is year. Griffin ends up going to the Bard's College. An interesting scene about that was he was doing his usual performances, and a child actually asked to basically become his student, I guess you could say. Basically, like tips and tricks and all that stuff. And in return, he taught, and the child's name is Christopher, excuse me. And in return, Christopher helped him learn a card game known as Sorcery. And it's sort of like a mix in that game is. I got so into it that I decided to actually make rules for this game and actually like write them out, and who knows, I might actually end up illustrating cards, or I'll get someone else to illustrate. I'll just come up with cards. We'll actually make a card game out of it. But anyway, so that was that was a lot of fun. A lot of character being built off that. So Linton ends up going to the library instead to read, and he just picks up a book on dwarven runes and just goes through it. Mishrael Tila or something. I forgot the name of the book, because he just starts reading through it, and Wendell and Alvaro also just end up in the library because they're like, yeah, we'll check out the library. I'm sure it'd be a fun day to spend in the library, where we don't usually deal with too many people. Of course, with Wendell and his last incident, I'm sure he doesn't want to deal with a lot of people, especially women. This day. So all three end up going to the library, and in one of the side rooms, they end up playing a game of sorcery. And of course, the players are taking it as like it's a game of Magic the Gathering, which essentially it's supposed to be, hence the name. And that's sort of like the joke behind it. So they go in, and there's this snobby kid, just talking so much smack. He's just the greatest of all time. And Alvaro, who's supposed to be like really the driest character, pulls out a deck and slams it on the table. So you have like sort of the driest character in the group. Not really. I mean, not really driest. He's just very monotone, likes to get business done. Like if there's a question, it's a yes or no question, he'll nod or do a single shake. So he ends up actually beating this kid. And it was really close game. Like they had, they were neck and neck pretty much throughout, and the kid and Alvaro put up their decks as sort of tribute to the winner. And one of the players actually at the same time, like he was over the house. This was Biggins, so this chair. Anyway, Biggins was like voicing this kid, like calling him master, so like it kind of fed his ego while Alvaro was playing. It was just this whole funny scene. Like this, pretty much like they were talking about going off, instead of doing like this whole grand adventure, they're gonna go out and just play sorcery the rest of the campaign, which sounds like fun, I guess. But after they leave there, like on transit to find Griffin, just this random woman, kind of short red hair, comes up and kisses Wendell on the cheek with guards pursuing, and lands a note in Wendell's pocket. That's one of the other players. And in the on the note it says, "Do not mention this occurrence ever again." So that was, you know, who knows? We'll probably see something later about it. Might not. Uh, but yeah, so everyone except for Griffin goes to the jewel shop since they're like, okay, well, we got some time to kill before we end up finding Griffin. And Lamont, the individual that just walked in, ends up buying like three jewels. I'm assuming for spellcasting. We'll see. But they end up getting lost looking for Griffin and losing Alvaro in the process. But after 3 hours, like, for this city isn't complex, but they like rolled terribly on finding Griffin. So one person rolled a 1. They end up like outside of town and all this other crazy stuff. So they eventually find Griffin, but they lose Alvaro in the process, and then they find Alvaro and head to the estate. And while on the way, Alvaro mentions that he saw one of his contacts with the Legion of Steel. And so they end up at the estate. Serafina and Enoch are there. The unboxing doesn't happen just yet of this grand weather experiment that Enoch's been working on. But it just because they're waiting for some ambassadors to come, they've kind of been late. No big deal. It's just that's sort of how they are. They always show up late to things like this. So they go to the tavern to meet Alvaro's contact after a few lines of conversation, and the contact is just the snobby, not really snobby, just she's like I think it tweaked all of them, tweaked all the players. She's just not the nicest person in the world. Business first, they are just the muscle. They are there. Alvaro is the only person she's in the Legion. She's in the Legion, so Alvaro's the only person that's worth her time. All the rest of them are just there. So, and then she's like explaining that there's this figure that's been stealing people's food and merchantry. So, and she just said, "You didn't even check your pack, did you?" One player like has a stare down with her before checking their pack. None of his rations are in there. Just all the rations are just gone. So it's just like, okay, exactly. So we're gonna meet, here, beginning of the next day. So they all go to sleep and end the 6th day of Starjump. That's pretty much it for this session. The players had fun, of course, with the whole sorcery thing. I had one player that said like, let's make this into a card game, and I'm like, I already started on it. So that was a fun realization for him. I guess I really should just finish up those rules now, shouldn't I? I'll do it eventually. But, yeah, that's pretty much it.